This is Shelley Kraft coming to you live on SNNLive. We're at the Aegis Capital Corp 2015 Investment Growth Conference in Las Vegas. I have with me Josh Hexter from Oramed Pharmaceuticals, Inc. It's a publicly traded company, and the symbol is ORMP. Josh, welcome to SNNLive.
Thank you, Shelley. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's good to have you. Let's get an overview and go from there.
Okay, Oramed Pharmaceuticals, we've been around for about 9 years now. We have a platform technology which allows us to take proteins, peptides, large molecules, and deliver them orally.
So you say platform technology, that's, able to deal with a lot of various different diseases. What's your key focus and core focus at this point?
So yeah, we're a small company, so we're focused currently in the world of diabetes. We currently have a capsule for type 2 and type 1 diabetes, oral insulin, delivered as opposed to via injection, via tablet.
Well, that's a breakthrough, because anything other than an injection has been in the works from a lot of different companies for a long time. What makes yours so different?
So what we did, we looked at what are the barriers to entry as far as delivering insulin and other macromolecules orally. And what we found was that you need to protect the molecule throughout the digestive system, as well as giving it an opportunity to be absorbed through the intestinal wall, up through the liver, and then to the rest of the body. So we've solved that with multiple different technologies and incorporated them together in a platform technology.
When you take the oral pill, I take it, it's a capsule, how long does it take to act in the system?
So the capsule it takes about 30 minutes to 40 minutes to actually start working, and our first indication is actually at night before bedtime, so that one can control their sugar numbers when they wake up in the morning and across the night.
How does this work with a type 2 diabetic as opposed to a type 1?
So yeah, so type 1 and type 2 are two different diseases for the most part. Type 1 is an autoimmune disease where basically the pancreas no longer creates any insulin whatsoever. We actually have done phase 2 studies with type 1 diabetics as well. And with type 2 diabetic patients, our current focus is actually, as I mentioned before, at nighttime usage. So you take a large swath of type 2 diabetic patients who go to bed at night and then wake up in the morning with raised sugar numbers. And that's not necessarily because they woke up in the middle of the night and had a donut or a bagel, but because basically the liver itself is malfunctioning. The liver itself is actually pumping out sugar throughout the night. And by taking insulin orally, the nice added value beyond just simply the fact that you're no longer taking it via injection and beyond getting rid of all the stigma involved in taking injectable therapy, but you're actually giving the insulin directly to the liver, and you're basically stopping the production and the secretion of sugar throughout the night. So you've basically nipped the problem in the bud simply by the fact that you're taking this orally.
Now, in terms of type 2 diabetes, there's a lot of drugs that have been on the market for 100 years, from glucophage right down to the basics. You still keep the regimen of the regular, indication, right? You still take the regular drug that a doctor recommends, but this is something special that works overnight. Is that what you're saying?
So this is insulin, but it's insulin plus. It's basically insulin as opposed to injecting insulin, which is not the way your body would give itself insulin. You're actually giving yourself insulin the way the body would give itself insulin. So it goes from the pancreas to the liver. That's the way your body gives itself insulin, and we're actually giving the insulin directly to the liver. By doing that, as I mentioned before, you're stopping the production of sugar, and you're basically nipping the problem in the bud. But well beyond that, if you look at guidance given by the American Diabetes Association and other associations out there, many have suggested using insulin much earlier on in the paradigm. And the reason for that is basically, specifically with type 2 diabetic patients, is that your pancreas is being overworked. You need more and more insulin, your pancreas is being overworked, and like a car, the more and more you drive this thing, you're driving it into the ground. So if I can supplement insulin on top of what your pancreas is producing, I can potentially give your pancreas a lot longer life. And there are, for the most part, almost nobody that gets on insulin therapy early. And the reason, as we mentioned before, there's stigma involved with injectable therapies. People simply don't want the needles, et cetera. And what we're looking at doing is actually bringing that insulin therapy earlier on in the paradigm. So it's a huge opportunity, both for the diabetic patients and for us from a market perspective.
Is it a time-release capsule?
So it's not time release, and one we didn't even present any data here. But if you look at some of the data, and
I don't mean to put you in a position you're not supposed to be in, but
No, not at
I
all.
just thought it was an interesting question because if you're taking it at night and it's working all night, it sounds to me like it's time released.
Yeah, so it sounds like time release, and when you look at the data, and we presented the data from our phase 2B study, from our phase 2A studies, but if you look at that data, not only do you see an effect across the night, but you see an effect into the daytime. So you're dosing at night before bedtime, you see an effect from the nighttime into the daytime, and when you look at our type 1 diabetes studies, where we dose them at meal times throughout the day, you see an overflow effect into the nighttime. So it does give you the feeling that it's a time release, but in fact, from our perspective, it's not time release, number one. And number two, the most likely reason for that effect that you see there is simply because of the fact that you're affecting the liver. So whereas injectable therapy, let's say maybe 90% is used systemically and maybe only 10% gets to the liver, here we're giving, let's say 80% to the liver, metabolized by the liver, and only 10% is then given, or 20% is then given to the rest of the body. So you're having a much longer effect because you're affecting the sugar production of the liver itself.
At the point in time where this is available to patients, is it going to be one capsule treat all patients, or is it more specific to the patient?
So there's obviously, if anyone is familiar with taking injectable therapy or injectable insulin for type 2 diabetic patients and for type 1 diabetic patients, there's a lot of variability. Intra-patient variability, intra-patient variability, there's a lot of variability which one needs to get over. Some of that needs to be overcome with simply a change in the dosing, et cetera, which we think we can certainly do. But again, as I mentioned before, a large part of our focus is at earlier stage of diabetics. And if I can affect the overall fasting blood glucose, that is the glucose numbers when the patient wakes up, I can probably do that without significant changes in dosing per patient. And that's precisely what we're looking at least for the early stage therapeutics.
Now, what stage of clinical trials are you at?
So with type 1 for oral insulin for type 1 diabetic patients, we finished the phase 2A study not too long ago. We've released the data, and it's quite encouraging. For type 2 diabetes, we finished a phase 2A study as well, and we've just kicked off a few months ago a phase 2B study in the U.S., 180 patients, over 30 sites. We just announced a little while back over 50% recruitment has been finished, so the study is rapidly moving forward, and we hope to release data on that mid to second half of next year.
Where does the science come from? Where does the science that Oramed's using come from?
So we're a small Israeli biotech company. The technology actually comes out of the Hadassah Hospital in Jerusalem from Dr. Miriam Kidron, who currently is our chief scientific officer. And we've been developing this as a company for the past 8-9 years.
And what's your background?
So I've been involved in biotech, pharmaceuticals, both on the diagnostics and on the therapeutic side for the past 15, 16 years. And I've been involved with Oramed for the past 2 years, and it's been just a tremendous opportunity.
Now let's get your website out there for the audience.
So our website is very easy. It's www.oramed.com. Come visit us.
Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Hexter. Oramed Pharmaceuticals, Inc. It's a publicly traded company, ORMP. I'm Shelley Kraft. This is SNNLive, and we're coming to you live from the Aegis Capital Corp 2015 Investment Growth Conference in Las Vegas. Josh, thanks for coming on to SNNLive.
Shelley, thank you for having me.